On Tuesday, I got into a debate with Destiny and Lonerbox and Sock Done Left and Food Shops and Avi all at the same time. Presumably a lot of you have already seen that debate already, but if you haven't, it was on Jewish settlements in the West Bank. In that conversation, I said that I would ultimately, however reluctantly, be in support of a path to peace which required the ethnic cleansing of Jews from all the inland settlements in places like Hebron in order to permit Fatah, or whatever came after it, to maintain an ethno-state free of permanent living quarters of Jews and their Judaizing influence in the birthplace of Judaism, so long as Jews were permitted access to the holiest sites in Judaism as daytime pilgrims, with the expectation that we be carted away like cattle back to our ethnically designated place by night's end. And yet, the title of that video, with over 100,000 views, calls me an Israeli extremist, as though my belief is one that favors Jewish rights over the rights of the future state of Palestine. That is, put simply, absurd. I understand that there's an algorithm game that has to be played. I understand that this isn't strictly a matter of political conversation, but also a job to both Lonerbox and Destiny. I get that that is different from me, and I don't begrudge either of them for framing the conversation in such a way that it will attract views. But I do think it's important to flag, from an audience perspective, that no, in fact, the view that Jewish access to the birthplace of Judaism can, and even should, play second fiddle to the matter of Palestinian autonomy, and that we should grant, axiomatically, that for Palestine to be free requires the recognition that it be without Jews. That is not the radical pro-Jewish stance. That is extremely pro-Palestine. Indeed, it is so pro-Palestine that I have personally been in shouting matches with people I care about a lot more than random dude bros on the internet, because they believe, and they're not crazy to believe, that my overwhelming support for the future state of Palestine is a rejection of my faith and of my duty to my own people. Part of what happens when these conversations arise between people like me with no platform or audience and people like Stephen with a very large one is that he gets to frame the boundaries of acceptable discourse and the edges of what is considered by the viewer to be reasonable. In that conversation, you were led to believe, intentionally, literally in the title, that even if I'm correct, mine is the extreme Jewish centering narrative. It is not. Jews who want to live in Judea are not extreme. Jews who want to stop Palestine from being free, Jews who demand their ethnic cleansing, those Jews are extreme. But simply wanting to live in the holiest places of Judaism, that is not extreme. In that debate, Sock Done Left, and then later Destiny, asked me whether Judaism suffered as the result of being forced away to places across the globe, away from our homeland, away from our temple. Whether, in short, our ethnic cleansing harmed us, harmed our religious freedoms, and our heartbeat as a people. The answer is categorically, of course. We pray towards the temple, or rather, towards its ruins. Or rather, we pray to the ruins of the second temple after both the first and second were destroyed. Or rather, we pray towards the second temple, which was destroyed, and then, after being destroyed, further humiliated as Muslim leadership built atop our ruins their third holiest sites, as an explicit statement of the end of Judaism, as an explicit statement that theirs was the religion of our people, of our future, of our history. Ethnic cleansing is a matter of cleansing. It's about making a place clean. Clean from the dirt that is, in this case, Jews. It's not just a matter of killing off or forcing out undesirable people. It's a matter of destroying space. Al-Aqsa, its very existence to many Jews, is understood as little different than a dog pissing on someone else's home to assert dominance. Its location is a form of ethnic cleansing. That said, that doesn't mean that it can be destroyed. Just because the Islam of Jerusalem began in violence does not negate Islam as a religion of peace. So too, Christianity, time and time again, through crusade after crusade, their God, our God, the shared God across all three faiths, named accomplice to their crime, Christianity nonetheless must be made space for in Jerusalem. In West Jerusalem, in East Jerusalem, and above all this, no, we will not in future build atop the temple. We will not destroy Al-Aqsa. We will not, on the carcass of yet another ethnic cleansing of place, not just people, destroy Jerusalem. Destroy Muslim Jerusalem, destroy Christian Jerusalem, destroy Jewish Jerusalem. And yet Jerusalem is small. Jerusalem is small, it is in the desert, and every inch of it is history. Every inch of it is worthy of protection in a way that simply is not true of any other city in the world. And so that leaves us with a problem. Jews have been ethnically cleansed already from literally every single nation in the entire Middle East, in the entirety of Northern Africa. We have only just barely, some of us, but not all, escaped the clutches of the Nazis, all that in living memory, all that in the span of less than a single lifetime. And the result has been our ghettoization as a people, and I use that term seriously, into a land the size of New Jersey, smaller even, with just two cities of any meaningful size, both of them exploding, both figuratively and also all too often literally, with the influx of refugees the world over, the influx of a Palestinian and Jewish population both skyrocketing in size because for whatever issues we've gone through, both of us, Jews and Palestinians alike, both refuse to let our inconvenience to the world around us lead us to our death. So the population is growing, and it will continue to grow. Among Palestinians, among Jews, the land is finite. But the people who want to, who need to, and who deserve to live on the holiest, the oldest, and perhaps the most complicated land in the world, we as people will continue to grow. In any other place, the solution would be simple. Build more housing. Tear down whatever you need to, recognize the seemingly insurmountable scale of the housing crisis head on, and simply build more. That is the solution to the American housing crisis. It is the solution to our problems of homelessness, of economic inequality, of racial segregation, all of it. Just build more. It is not a solution to Jerusalem. You can't do that. There's a famous video that went viral a few years ago of a Jewish man who was moved into a part of a Palestinian woman's home. She screams at him, nearly in tears, begging him to go, begging for her home to be returned to her. And if you watch that video without your heart breaking for her, you are without a soul. And yet, understand the reason why. What that woman did, she didn't build a new component of her home, she excavated what was beneath it. She tore up thousands of years of history because she wanted another bedroom, because she wanted to expand her kitchen. If in any other place a woman was expanding her kitchen and the response was to forcibly remove her ownership of that new wing of her home, it would be absurd. But is it here? Is that truly absurd? What's the alternative? The alternative is the entire old city is destroyed. The old city of Jerusalem is, just as a matter of historic significance, let alone in terms of religion, more important than the entire collection of any museum in America, in Britain, in the world combined. And so even the slightest change, the addition of electricity, is rightly to be understood as a massive tectonic implication, and yet it is also an actual neighborhood. It is a place where people live, and no, it should not cease to be that. It should not become a sealed-off reservation for fat and stupid tourists to treat like a glorified Disney World. It is a neighborhood. That woman does belong there, and she is right to want another wing to her home. And yet, for her to gain it, as an aggregation of decisions over a period of centuries, flatly is an ethnic cleansing. Her home is built through no fault of her own on the ruins of ethnic cleansing, time and time again over the course of thousands of years. It's complicated. Anyone who tells you that Israel-Palestine is simple, they are lying to you, or worse still, they are, like Hassan or like Jackson Hinkle, stupid. Don't listen to stupid people. Listen to people who recognize that this isn't a simple situation. So when Destiny talks about the settlements, recognize what is being discussed. Look at a map. The West Bank surrounds Jerusalem from 3 of 4 sides, and Jerusalem is growing. It's either going to grow up or it's going to grow out. And either one of those decisions is massively impactful, hurts people, results in violent clashes that will inevitably resolve themselves in the death of thousands, if not more. This is not a good situation to find oneself in, but it is the situation that Israelis and Palestinians, Jews and Muslims, Christians too, it is the situation that we find ourselves in. If the choice is the peaceful purchase of lands surrounding Jerusalem to become part of Israel proper, and I want to be clear, only some of that land, not all of it, as inevitably the only serious possible solution for the independence of an Israel and Palestine at peace is if Jerusalem is the capital for both. But some of that land to the north and south, but not to the east, must become Israel. There's no getting around that without destroying the most important sites of Jerusalem proper. Those settlements, they are about Israel and Palestine. Are they filled with religious Jews? Some of their inhabitants are religious, yes. But all of them are simply Jews, whether religious or secular, living in the last standing ghetto of the Middle East, in the sole city of its size in the entire world available to them. Those settlements change where the borders are, it's true. And it's necessary if Israel is to survive its relationship to its own capital. But that is different from the ones in Hebron. The Jews living in Hebron, living near the cave of the patriarchs, those Jews whose lives are devoted entirely to their faith, those Jews are of course a stumbling block, an inconvenient truth for Israeli and Palestinian nationhood. Governments would be better off if they stopped caring about their God. But we as Jews have been told that before. It didn't work then, it won't work now. However inconvenient those religious settlements may be, no, I will not condemn them. No, I will not cower in the face of the difficulties that they represent to the future state of Palestine. If those innocent Jews are to be ethnically cleansed when all this resolves itself, I will stand by, in tears perhaps, but I will stand by as they, and we, as Jews, by extension, are hurled, kicking and screaming, away from our homes. No, our home, the home of the Jews, in order to make space for Palestine. But in this interim, no, they are not wrong to believe in something greater and to believe that genuine peace beyond borders is possible.